Some men measure their lives in years. I measure mine in dinners, not the kind you eat standing over a sink or half watching the news. I mean real dinners, long tables, heavy silverware. The kind where people sit down with intentions, whether they admit it or not, because if you pay attention long enough, you'll learn something simple. People don't reveal themselves when they're angry. They reveal themselves when they think no one's watching. Sunday, October 12th, Charleston, South Carolina. 5:42 p.m. The table was already set when I walked in. 12 chairs, 12 place settings. 12 folded linen napkins, all identical except one. That one sat at the far end of the table. Smaller plate, different glass, paper napkin. I stopped walking. Just stood there in the doorway of my own dining room, staring at that one seat like it had personally insulted me. Behind me, Margaret's voice floated in from the kitchen. "You're early. I live here," I said without turning around. "That hasn't stopped you before. Fair enough." I stepped closer to the table, slow, deliberate. My fingers brushed the back of one of the chairs as I passed, then another, until I reached the end. That seat, the one that didn't belong. "Margaret," I said quietly. She appeared beside me a moment later, drying her hands on a dish towel. She followed my gaze and froze. "Oh," she said, don't," I cut in gently. "Don't explain it yet, because I already understood, and I wanted to see if anyone else did. My name is Thomas Whitaker, 78 years old. Built Whitaker Holdings from a 2-room office and a second-hand desk into something that now pays salaries I can't pronounce without a calculator. I have 2 sons. Daniel, the older one, precise, controlled, the kind of man who irons his socks. And Andrew, the younger, charismatic, charming, and about as reliable as a weather forecast in July. Between them I have 3 grandchildren. Lucas, 12, Daniel's boy, future CEO, if Daniel has anything to say about it. Emma, 10, Andrew's biological daughter, bright, loud, the kind of child who walks into a room like she owns it, and Lily, 8 years old, Andrew's adopted daughter, the one with the paper napkin. They started arriving at 6:03. Daniel and his wife first, right on schedule. Of course, Daniel doesn't do fashionably late. He does 5 minutes early and slightly annoyed about it. "Dad," he said, stepping in and offering a firm handshake instead of a hug. "Good to see you, is it?" I asked. A flicker of something crossed his face. Then it was gone. His wife Caroline kissed my cheek lightly. "The house looks beautiful," she said. "It's the same house," I replied. "Yes," she smiled. "But you've rearranged the flowers." I glanced at the centerpiece. She wasn't wrong. Caroline notices things. That's what makes her dangerous. Andrew arrived at 6:19. Late, of course. The front door swung open with energy instead of intention. "Dad," he called out, already smiling like he was walking into applause. Emma rushed in ahead of him, dropping her bag by the stairs like she'd never been taught what furniture was for. "Grandpa," she shouted, launching herself at me. I caught her easily. She smelled like strawberry shampoo and sugar. "Careful," I said. "You're getting heavier." "That's because I'm growing," she informed me. "Well, stop it," I said. "It's expensive," she laughed. Andrew stepped in behind her, adjusting his jacket. "Traffic was a nightmare," he said. "It's Sunday." Daniel's voice came from the living room. At 6, Andrew ignored him. That's a skill he's perfected over the years. Lily came in last, quietly, no announcement, no running, no dropped bags. She stepped through the door like she was entering someone else's house instead of mine. Small frame, dark hair pulled back. Big eyes that moved constantly, taking everything in, measuring it. She held a book in her hands, always a book. "Hello, Mr. Whitaker," she said, not Grandpa, never Grandpa, not because she didn't want to. Because no one had told her she could. I crouched down to her level. "You can call me Thomas," I said. She shook her head quickly. "That's not respectful." I smiled slightly. "We'll work on it." Dinner was served at 6:37. Margaret had outdone herself. Roasted chicken, garlic mashed potatoes, green beans with almonds, fresh bread that still steamed when you tore it open. The kind of meal that fills a room before anyone says a word. We took our seats. Daniel at my right, Andrew at my left, Caroline next to Daniel, Andrew's wife, Rebecca, across from me. Emma slid into her chair with a bounce. Lucas adjusted his napkin like he was preparing for surgery. And Lily walked to the end of the table, stopped, looked down at that place setting, that smaller plate, that paper napkin. For half a second, just half her face changed. Not dramatic, not obvious, just a flicker. Like a light dimming for an instant, then it was gone. She sat down, didn't say a word, didn't look up, just folded her hands in her lap and waited. I didn't pick up my fork, neither did anyone else. Because here's the thing about a table like that. When the man at the head doesn't eat, no one eats. I let the silence stretch. 5 seconds, 10, 15, long enough for discomfort to start settling in like a guest no one invited. Finally, Daniel cleared his throat. "Dad," I leaned back slightly. "Why," I said calmly, "does one of my grandchildren have a paper napkin?" The room went still, not quiet, still. There's a difference. Rebecca spoke first. "It's just Lily can be a little messy sometimes, so we thought." "Stop," I said, not loud, didn't need to be. She stopped. Everyone did. I looked at Andrew. Do you agree with that? He shifted in his seat. It's not a big deal, Dad, I nodded slowly. Then let's fix it. I reached over, picked up my own linen napkin and placed it in front of Lily. Then I took the paper napkin and set it in my own lap. Now it's not a big deal, I said. No one laughed. Good. Dinner continued. Conversations started up again, but they were thinner now. Careful. Daniel talked about a new acquisition. Caroline asked polite questions. Andrew made a joke that landed somewhere between forced and unnecessary. Emma interrupted twice. Lucas corrected her once. Lily said nothing, but I watched. I always watch, and what I saw wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel in the way people expect cruelty to be. It was quieter than that, more efficient. Emma asked for seconds. Rebecca served her immediately. Lucas asked for more bread. Caroline passed it without hesitation. Lily's plate emptied slowly. She didn't ask for anything, and no one offered, not once, not even by accident. At 7:12 p.m. I set my fork down. The sound was soft, but it carried. Dessert, Margaret called from the kitchen. Not yet, I said. She paused, then nodded and stepped back. She knows me well enough to recognize timing. I looked around the table, at my sons, at their wives, at my grandchildren, and then finally at Lily, still sitting at the end. Still small, still quiet, still waiting. Before we have dessert, I said, I have something to discuss. Daniel straightened slightly. Andrew leaned back. Rebecca's fingers tightened around her glass. Caroline just watched. Of course she did. I've been reviewing my estate, I continued. That got their attention. It always does. I've made some decisions. No one interrupted. Smart. For years, I said, I believed in equal distribution, fairness, balance. I paused. Then I shook my head. I was wrong. Now they shifted, all of them, because that sentence never leads anywhere comfortable. Family, I said, is not about biology. It's about responsibility. My eyes moved to Andrew, then to Rebecca, then to that seat at the end of the table. And I've been watching, I added. That word landed. Watching, because people forget. They always forget. Old men aren't blind. We just stop announcing what we see. I've also been listening, I continued. And what I've heard over the past year, I let the sentence hang, unfinished, on purpose, because silence fills in blanks far more effectively than words ever could. Lily shifted in her seat. Just slightly, still holding that linen napkin like it didn't quite belong to her. I folded my hands on the table. My attorney will be joining us shortly. That did it. That was the moment the air changed completely. Rebecca sat up straight. Daniel's jaw tightened. Andrew frowned. Your attorney, he said. Yes. Why? I looked at him. Because sometimes the simplest questions deserve the clearest answers. Because this conversation, I said, is no longer just a family matter. The doorbell rang. 7:18 p.m. right on time. Margaret looked at me. I nodded once. She went to answer it. Footsteps in the hallway, measured, confident. Unhurried, a woman entered the dining room seconds later. Mid-50s, sharp eyes, dark suit, leather folder in hand. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. Good evening, she said. My name is Alina Hayes. She placed the folder on the table, looked at each person in the room once, assessing, cataloging, understanding. Then she sat down without asking. I leaned back in my chair. Finally, after everything, after the table. After the dinner, after the silence, I smiled, just a little. Now, I said calmly, we can begin. No one reached for their water. That was the first thing I noticed. 12 glasses on that table, filled within an inch of the rim, and not a single hand moved toward one. Not Daniel's precise grip, not Andrew's restless fingers, not Rebecca's tightly folded hands, not even Caroline, who usually did small, calming things when a room started to tilt. They all just waited. Good. Waiting has a way of making people honest. Alina Hayes opened her folder with the kind of quiet efficiency that makes noise unnecessary. No theatrics, no dramatic sighs, just paper sliding against paper. Mr. Whittaker has retained me to formalize several decisions regarding his estate and guardianship directives, she said. Her voice was even, measured, professional in a way that leaves no room for interpretation. This discussion will be brief, she added, but its implications are not. Andrew let out a small, humorless laugh. Dad, come on, he said, leaning back like he was trying to turn this into something lighter. What is this? Some kind of Andrew, I said, just his name. He stopped, because he's learned, eventually, that tone matters more than volume. Alina slid the first document onto the table, not toward me, toward Daniel. Interesting choice. Daniel looked down at it, then up at her. What is this? He asked. An amendment, she replied, to Mr. Whittaker's will. Daniel didn't touch it immediately. He studied it first. That's what he does. He analyzes before he reacts. Why me? He asked. Because you're the executor, she said. That landed, a small shift in the room. Daniel's shoulders straightened almost imperceptibly. Responsibility looks good on him. It always has. Andrew leaned forward now. Hold on, he said. Executor, since when? Since always, I said. He blinked. You never told me that. You never asked. That shut him up. Daniel finally picked up the document. His eyes moved quickly left to right, line by line. I watched his face, because Daniel doesn't emote much, but when he does, it's precise. At line 3 his jaw tightened. At line 6 his brow furrowed. At line 9 he stopped reading, looked up at me. "Dad," he said slowly, "this can't be right." "It is," I replied. Andrew reached across, grabbing the second copy Alina had placed on the table. "Let me see that," he muttered. Rebecca leaned in beside him. Caroline didn't move, she just watched. Of course she did. Silence again. But this one was different, heavier, because now they were reading, and reading does something conversations don't. It removes ambiguity. Emma swung her legs under the table. "Are we still having dessert?" she asked. No one answered. Lucas glanced at her, then back at his plate. He understands more than he lets on. Lily was looking at Alina, not at the papers. Not at me, at Alina, like she was trying to figure out what role this woman played in a story she didn't realize she was part of. Andrew slammed the paper down. "This is ridiculous." There it was, predictable, reliable. "Almost comforting. You're transferring the Maple Ridge property into a trust," he said, his voice rising. "And the investment accounts, Dad, that's what is this, some kind of language?" Rebecca whispered sharply. He ignored her. "Some kind of punishment." I tilted my head slightly. "Do you feel punished?" He opened his mouth, closed it. "Good." Alina spoke before he could recover. "The Whittaker Family Trust," she said, "has been restructured into a single beneficiary irrevocable trust." Rebecca's voice cut in. Single beneficiary, her tone had changed, less defensive, more calculating. She already knew where this was going. Smart woman, too late, but still smart. Alina nodded. "Yes." Daniel set his paper down carefully. "Who?" he asked. He didn't look at me, he didn't need to, I didn't answer. Not yet, because timing matters, and this moment, this one needed weight. Alina turned her gaze to the end of the table, to Lily, who immediately looked down at her hands. "Lily Whittaker," Alina said. The room didn't explode. That would have been easier. It just collapsed inward, quietly. Emma frowned. "Why her?" she asked, blunt as ever. Rebecca inhaled sharply. "Emma, what?" Emma said. "I'm just asking." Of course she was. Children don't filter, they reveal. Daniel leaned back in his chair slowly, processing, always processing. Andrew stood up, chair scraping against the floor. "Absolutely not," he said. There it was, the part he plays best, outrage. "Sit down," I said. He didn't, not immediately. He looked at me like he was deciding whether to push. Then he looked at Alina, then at the papers, then at Lily. And something in that sequence, something shifted. He sat. "This is insane," he said, quieter now. "You're giving everything to her." "Not everything," I corrected. "Just what matters." Daniel's eyes flicked to mine. He caught that. Of course he did. Rebecca leaned forward. "Noah Thomas," she corrected herself quickly. "This is a huge decision. Surely there's room for discussion." "There isn't," Alina said, flat, final. Rebecca turned to her. "We're her parents." Alina met her gaze. "And Mr. Whittaker is her legal guardian of record in the event of parental incapacity, per the emergency directive filed last quarter." Rebecca froze. "What?" Andrew looked at me. "What is she talking about?" I held his gaze. "Paperwork," I said. Daniel exhaled slowly. "You filed a guardianship contingency without telling us." "I filed it," I said, "because no one else was paying attention." That landed harder than anything else I'd said so far. "Because it was true, and truth has weight." Lily's voice came then, small, careful. "Am I in trouble?" Every head turned, all at once. That's the thing about children. They assume everything is their fault. Even when the room is full of adults who should know better. I stood up, walked to the end of the table, knelt beside her chair. "No," I said gently, "you are not in trouble." She searched my face. "Then why is everyone mad?" I glanced around the table, at the anger, the confusion, the fear. "They're not mad at you," I said. "They're mad because they're being asked to see something they've been ignoring." She frowned slightly, processing, then nodded. Like that made sense to her. It usually does. Kids understand more than we give them credit for. I stood back up, returned to my seat. Alina placed a second set of documents on the table. "These are the conditions," she said. Daniel didn't pick them up this time. Andrew didn't either. Rebecca did. Of course she did. Her eyes moved quickly, then slower, then she stopped. "Therapy," she said. "Yes," Alina replied. "For Lily, for the family," Alina corrected. Andrew let out a sharp breath. "You've got to be kidding me." "No," I said, "I'm not." Rebecca kept reading. "Weekly sessions, attendance mandatory, documentation required." Her voice trailed off. She looked up at me. "You're serious?" "I've never been more serious in my life." Daniel finally reached for the document. "Read it." Nodded once, not in agreement, in acknowledgement. He understands systems. This is a system. Emma leaned over. "What's therapy?" she whispered to Lucas. He shrugged. "Probably boring." She made a face. "Sounds boring." Lily was still holding that linen napkin, carefully, like it might disappear if she let go. "And this," Rebecca said, flipping the page. "Visitation schedule," Alina answered. "Mr. Whittaker will have legally enforceable visitation rights." Andrew laughed again, short, sharp. "You already see her whenever you want." "Not anymore," I said. Silence again. But now it wasn't confusion, it was realization. "You're saying," Andrew said slowly, "that if we don't agree to this," Alina finished the sentence for him, "the report to Child Protective Services will be filed immediately." There it was. Out in the open, no more implication, no more suggestion, just fact. Rebecca closed her eyes for a second, then opened them. What report? She asked, even though she already knew. Eleanor slid the final document forward. This one, no one touched it, not right away, because sometimes you don't need to read something to know what it says. I folded my hands, looked at my sons. My house, I said quietly, is not where children learn they don't belong. No one argued. Because no one could, Lily looked up at me again. Do I belong here? She asked. Simple question, heavy answer. I met her eyes. Yes, I said, clear, certain, more than you know. She nodded just once. Then she reached for her water. And finally someone drank. The room didn't relax, it didn't soften, but something fundamental had shifted. The illusion was gone, and once that happens, you can't put it back. Eleanor closed her folder. We'll give you time to review, she said, but not much. She stood. I remained seated. Andrew stared at the table. Rebecca stared at the documents. Daniel stared at me. Caroline was staring at Lily, thoughtful, curious. Like she was seeing her for the first time. Dessert, Margaret's voice came again from the kitchen. No one answered. I smiled slightly. Now, I said, we can talk. No one spoke. That wasn't unusual. What was unusual was why. Before, silence in that room had been polite, structured, the kind you get when people are choosing their words carefully. This silence, this one had edges. Andrew broke first. Of course he did. He always does when the room gets too tight. This is unbelievable, he muttered, dragging a hand down his face. You set us up. I didn't blink. I invited you to dinner. With a lawyer waiting in the hallway. With a problem waiting at the table, I corrected. He scoffed. Oh, come on, Dad, don't act like this is about a napkin. It's not, I said calmly, and that's when Daniel spoke. He's right. Everyone turned. Daniel didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. It's not about the napkin, he continued. It's about the pattern. Andrew stared at him. You too. Daniel didn't look at him. He was looking at Lily, still watching. Lucas gets asked what he wants before anyone else touches the serving dishes, Daniel said. Caroline's head tilted slightly. He continued. Emma gets corrected, loudly, consistently. Emma frowned. I do not, you do, Daniel said simply. She crossed her arms. And Lily, he paused. That pause mattered, because Daniel doesn't hesitate unless something is worth weighing. Lily adapts. The word landed softer than the others. But it carried more weight. Rebecca shifted in her chair. That's not fair, she said. She's just quieter. No, Daniel replied. She's careful. That hit. You could see it. Andrew pushed his chair back slightly. So now we're psychoanalyzing dinner. No, I said. We're acknowledging it. Lily's fingers tightened around the napkin. Still that same napkin, still holding it like it mattered more than it should. Rebecca leaned forward again. Her voice softer now, controlled. Thomas, she said, you're making a permanent decision based on perception. I looked at her. No, I said, I'm making it based on repetition. She opened her mouth, closed it. Because there's no good argument against something that happens over and over again. Caroline finally spoke, first time since Eleanor arrived. Can I ask something? She said. I nodded. She looked at Rebecca. Do you know Lily's favorite food? Rebecca blinked, caught off guard. Of course I do. What is it? Rebecca hesitated just a second, but that second it was loud. Pasta, Lily said quietly. All eyes turned to her. She shrank slightly under the attention. From the box, she added, not the other kind. No one said anything. Caroline nodded slowly. Lucas prefers fresh, she said. He complains if it's overcooked. Daniel nodded. Because we ask him, Emma leaned over again. I like pizza, she said helpfully. Andrew let out a breath. This is ridiculous. No, I said, and this time there was something underneath it, not anger, something older, heavier. No, I repeated. What's ridiculous is that an 8-year-old just answered a question her mother should have answered without thinking. Rebecca's eyes flashed. That's not fair. Then fix it, I said. Silence again, but now it wasn't avoidance. It was confrontation. Eleanor checked her watch, not impatient, just aware. Time matters to people like her. Andrew stood up again, this time slower, less explosive, more uncertain. What do you want from us? He asked, finally. The right question. I leaned forward slightly. Accountability, he frowned. That's vague. No, I said, it's not. I gestured toward the papers. You follow the conditions, you show up. You pay attention, we do pay attention. No, I said quietly, you manage. That hit harder than shouting ever could. Rebecca looked at Lily, really looked, for the first time that night, not a glance, not a check-in, a look Lily noticed. You could see it in the way her shoulders shifted, just a little, like something unfamiliar had brushed against her. I didn't realize, Rebecca started, then stopped, because what comes after that sentence is dangerous. I didn't realize turns into I wasn't looking, and no one likes admitting that. Daniel leaned back, hands folded, watching the whole thing like a chess game, 3 moves ahead, always. Andrew ran his hands through his hair. I thought she was okay, he said. There it was, the truth, simple, honest, late. Of course she was, I said. He looked at me. What does that mean? It means she learned how to be. Lily looked down again, because that sentence. That one reached her. Emma kicked her legs again. Can we have dessert now? She asked. Margaret laughed softly from the kitchen, couldn't help herself. No, Andrew snapped. Emma frowned. Why are you mad at me? I'm not. He stopped. Closed his eyes, took a breath. When he opened them again, he looked different, less defensive, more tired. I'm not mad at you, he said quietly. She studied him, then nodded, accepted it. Kids do that. They take what you give them. Rebecca picked up the documents again, read them slower this time, carefully like they mattered because now they did. 4 sessions, she said. Alina nodded. To start. Rebecca exhaled. That's manageable. Andrew looked at her. You're agreeing to this? She didn't look at him. I'm understanding it. Daniel spoke again. Smart. Andrew shot him a look. Whose side are you on? Daniel didn't hesitate. The side that doesn't lose everything. That shut him up. Caroline finally reached for her water, took a slow sip, then set it down. You know what the problem is, she said. No one answered, so she continued. You treated fairness like sameness. Rebecca frowned. They're not the same, Caroline said gently, and you made that obvious. Lily looked up at her just for a second. Caroline smiled, small, reassuring. Lily looked back down, but not as fast this time. Alina closed her folder. This isn't about punishment, she said. It's about correction. Andrew laughed quietly. Feels like punishment. That's because correction is uncomfortable, she replied. I stood up slowly. Every eye followed. Good. I'm not asking you to be perfect, I said. I'm asking you to be present. I looked at Andrew, at Rebecca, at her. Lily lifted her head, met my eyes. You don't get to decide she's okay just because she doesn't complain, I continued. You don't get to assume silence means stability. Rebecca's eyes filled, just slightly, not dramatic, real. I didn't know, she whispered. I nodded. I know. Then I added, that's the problem. The room held that. No one rushed to fix it. Good, some things need to sit. Andrew finally pulled his chair back in, sat down, picked up the pen Alina had placed on the table earlier. He turned it in his fingers once, twice, then he looked at Lily. Do you want me to sign this? He asked, not me, her. That mattered more than anything else that had happened so far. Lily froze completely, like the question was too big, too heavy, too new. She looked at me. I didn't answer. This wasn't mine. She looked at Rebecca, then back at Andrew. She started, stopped, swallowed, tried again. I want to sit closer next time. No one moved because that sentence, that was the whole story. Boiled down to one simple truth. Andrew's hand tightened around the pen. Rebecca covered her mouth. Daniel looked down. Caroline closed her eyes briefly. I nodded once. That can be arranged. Andrew signed. Rebecca signed. No hesitation this time, no argument, just action. Alina collected the papers, efficient as ever. Effective immediately, she said. Margaret stepped into the doorway. Now, she asked. I looked around the table at the tension, the shift. The beginning of something different. I smiled. Now, I said. Dessert was served, but nothing about that table was the same. And for the first time that night, Lily didn't wait to be asked. She reached for the bread. Dessert changed the room. Not completely, not magically, but enough. Margaret set down slices of pecan pie and vanilla ice cream like she always did, steady hands, no fuss, like nothing unusual had just unfolded in the last hour. But everything had. And everyone knew it. Emma dug in first. Of course she did. Can I have more ice cream? She asked before she'd even finished the first bite. Rebecca opened her mouth, then paused, looked at Lily, just for a second. Does anyone else want more? She asked. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't smooth, but it was different. Lily looked up, surprised, then nodded. Just a little, she said. Rebecca served her. Same spoon, same bowl, same motion, no hesitation. That's how change starts, not with speeches. With small corrections no one applauds. Daniel watched it happen, I could tell, because he noticed things like that, always had. He didn't say anything, didn't need to. Andrew sat quieter now. Not defeated, not exactly, more like aware. The kind of awareness that doesn't come from being told you're wrong, it comes from realizing it yourself. Caroline leaned slightly toward Lily. How was the pasta you made? She asked gently. Lily blinked. You know about that? Caroline smiled. Your grandfather mentioned it. Lily glanced at me. I gave her a small nod. Good, she said. Messy. Caroline laughed softly. Best kind, Emma jumped in. I can cook too. Daniel raised an eyebrow. You can make toast. It's still cooking, she argued. Lucas nodded seriously. She burns it. I do not. You do. The table softened just a little. Enough to breathe again, but I wasn't done, not yet, because dinners don't end when the plates are empty. They end when the truth settles. At 8:06 p.m. I stood again, not abruptly, not dramatically, just enough. Conversations faded. Naturally, I have one more thing, I said. Andrew looked up immediately. Rebecca's shoulders tensed. Daniel leaned forward slightly. Caroline went still. Lily stopped mid-bite, fork hovering, waiting. I walked to the sideboard. Picked up a small envelope, plain, unmarked, returned to the table, set it down in front of Lily. She stared at it, didn't touch it. Is this for me? She asked. Yes. Rebecca looked confused. What is that? You'll see, I said. Lily opened it carefully, like everything else she did, slow, deliberate. Inside was a single card. She pulled it out, read it silently, once, then again, her brow furrowed. "Grandpa," she said softly, then corrected herself. "Thomas, what is this?" I smiled. "Read it out loud." She hesitated, then did. "This seat is reserved for Lily Whittaker, always." The room didn't move, didn't breathe. Lily looked at the chair she was sitting in, then back at me. "I don't understand." I walked to the end of the table, placed my hand on the back of her chair. "This," I said, "is your seat." Andrew frowned. "It's just a chair, Dad." I looked at him. "No," I said. "It isn't." I pulled the chair back slightly, not away from the table, closer to it, aligned with the others, perfectly even. "No more ends of the table," I said. "No more smaller plates. No more different napkins." My eyes moved across every face. "One by one, if she sits here," I continued. "She sits like she belongs." Rebecca swallowed hard. Daniel nodded once, approval clear. Caroline smiled, not wide, but real. Emma looked confused. Was she not supposed to sit there before? No one answered, because that one didn't need an answer. Lily looked down at the card again, then at the table, then at Rebecca. "Can I sit here next time?" she asked quietly, pointing to the empty chair beside Emma. Rebecca blinked, then nodded. "Yes," she said, no hesitation this time. "Of course you can." Emma grinned. "You can sit next to me." "I talk a lot, I know," Lily said, and for the first time there was something in her voice, not just quiet, not just careful, something lighter. Andrew leaned forward. "Elle," he said softly. She looked at him. "I'm sorry." The words didn't fix anything. Not instantly, not completely, but they mattered. She studied him longer than before, then nodded. "Okay." Simple, direct enough. I stepped back, returned to my seat. Alina stood. Collected her folder. "This concludes my involvement for tonight," she said. She looked at me. A small nod, professional, satisfied. "Thank you," I said. She left as quietly as she arrived. The room stayed. No one rushed out. No one checked their phones. No one tried to escape the moment, because for the first time they were actually in it. 6 months later, Sunday, April 20th, Charleston, South Carolina. 6:01 p.m. The table was set again. 12 chairs, 12 settings, 12 linen napkins, no exceptions. I walked in, same doorway, same view, different room, because now there was no end of the table, just seats. Lily was already there, not waiting, not hovering, sitting. In the middle between Emma and Lucas, talking, actually talking. And then I told her the pasta was supposed to look like that, she was saying, hands moving as she spoke. Emma laughed. "That's not true." "It is." Lucas shook his head. "It's not." Daniel watched them, not correcting, just observing. Caroline poured water for everyone, no order, no priority. Rebecca placed the bread basket down, right in the center. "Help yourselves," she said. Lily reached first. No one noticed. That's how you know it worked. Andrew came in from the kitchen, set down a dish. "Careful," he said. "It's hot." He looked at Lily. "Want me to cut it for you?" She shrugged. "I can do it." He smiled. "Yeah," he said. "You can." I sat down at the head of the table, same seat, same view, but everything else different. Daniel leaned over slightly. "Good turnout," he said. I nodded. "Better table." He followed my gaze to Lily, laughing now, really laughing. "Not careful, not quiet, just a child." "She's changed," he said. I shook my head. "No," I replied. "They did." He considered that, then nodded. Dinner started, naturally. No tension, no hesitation. Halfway through, Lily looked at me. "Grandpa," I didn't correct her. "Yes," she smiled, small but certain. "Can I make pasta next time?" I leaned back slightly, looked around the table, at the faces, at the space, at what it had become. "Yes," I said. "You can," and just like that the table held. No one was out of place, no one was overlooked, no one was less, because in the end it was never about the money, never about the documents, never even about the dinner. It was about one simple thing, making sure there was never again only one seat at the table.